They forget why they're there. I'm here to try and see if we're fit to do this project together. I'm not here to be your friend. It'd be great if we were friends. It's tough to overcome that there's no good sales reps out there. You can't hire good sales reps. The other option is to hire bad ones. So just don't hire bad ones and keep looking. In order for people to buy from you, they first need to know you and like you. So I need to know that you exist. If I'm going to buy from you, I need to know you exist. And then I probably need to like you. And my interaction with you has been positive. You have the greatest insight into the board sitting right in front of you. Like, how can you solve their problems and make them fight for you to that board? Or if they can't fight in front of the board, like, can you learn more about the board from them?
Welcome to Price, Sell, Paint, the go-to podcast for painting contractors and sales professionals in the painting industry. Hosted by industry experts John Bryant and Michael Murray. This podcast is proudly powered by PaintScout, your partner in painting success.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Price, Sell, Paint. Today, we are here with Colin Nolan from the Nolan Consulting Group. Welcome, Colin.
Thanks, John. I was telling you guys earlier how big of a fan I am. I don't think you guys have had on a guest ever that's been as excited to be on as I am.
Amazing.
It's the first time I can say first time, long time.
First
There you go. We've never heard that.
The first person who said that actually was you, Michael.
First time, long time?
Yeah.
I had listened to one.
Yeah, you
Episode 2.
You listened to one. It was like the first little recording that we released. It was a live webinar, and you, long-time listener, first-time caller. So for those of you guys who don't know Colin is part of the Nolan Consulting Group, and they've been influential in my life, Michael's life, in just shaping our businesses. They help businesses that are 50,000 in revenue, I think, all the way up, or 500, is it? Kind of where do you guys start?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked with some start like zero revenue companies before. It's certainly not common, but we have. But yeah, typically around the 500,000.
500,000 and all the way up to 50 million kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, your expertise, we're excited to chat with you today just because of how much knowledge you have in the area of helping to hire sales reps, identifying when sales reps are working with sales reps to get better, and just bringing that knowledge that's so helpful to us, as business owners, get the right people in place in our organizations and make sure that it's selling. So we're excited.
I'll see what I can do here. I mean, as a fan of the pod, you guys know a lot. So I'm sure you guys will have some tips as well.
Well, we also have a growth mindset around here, Colin. So
yes,
I'm ready to learn. Let's figure out what we don't know.
Nice.
But where I want to start actually is you knew Michael back when he couldn't grow facial hair, I think.
I still can't grow facial hair.
Yeah.
Well,
making fun of me.
There's this thing called Rogaine, Michael. Might help you. Apply that to your beard. So yeah, I mean, what was it like working with Michael back when you first started?
Man, so Michael was actually my first ever paying client. I never told him at the time. I don't think I had the courage to tell him that until like a year and a half ago.
I think I just heard that for the first time.
No, I told you that. I told you that like a year and a half ago. Yeah, I think it was back in like 2017.
That's right.
2016, 2017.
Right. Yeah.
And it was contentious because the Yankees and the Indians were in the ALCS against each other that year. And so that caused some friction. But yeah, when I first started working with Michael, you'll obviously know as well, but the interior painting was the large hurdle for you to get over, right? There in the winter time, you basically had like none
to do any. Yeah. At
and
that
then
point,
I remember like the first month of January where you did like, I forget what the number was. It was whether it was like 75 or 100,000 in overall revenue. And for the month of January, it was like a massive win. I was like, we finally did it.
I think in the January of 2017, we did like $10,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
And that was about a $10,000 increase over the year before. That was around the time. So we, I talk about on the pod, I started the company in 2006, Colin knows, and not until 2017, really 2018, were we anything other than a like college exterior painting company. So we hired a bunch of college kids, painted a bunch of exteriors, operated in a handful of different states, 7 different states at one point. Highly don't recommend doing it anything like we did. It was awful. I lost a ton of money. I was crying a lot and wondering how I was going to make it with 2 little kids and a couple $100,000 in debt, and was trying to find some marketing help. And David Chisholm,
pretty ironic that you were looking for marketing help.
I was looking for any help at that point, to be honest with you. David Chisholm I talked to, and he asked if I was referred to him by Nolan Consulting. Right. And I said, no, I wasn't. What's that? and I did not end up working with David, probably because I couldn't afford to hire anybody to help me with marketing, and ended up hiring Colin, whatever, after that, and the rest is history. I'm still working with Colin. Colin's still my coach today.
I still remember the first couple calls, like I because you were my first like real client, I'd be like, I got that call with Michael on Wednesday. It'd be like a Monday. I'd be like nervous and like, I need to prepare. I need to do a really good job. So Michael, you helped me get over some of the early coaching jitters there. So I appreciate it.
Well, happy to help. I owe a lot of success to you.
Yeah. I mean, look at where you were and where you are now.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Yeah. I remember the financial state that you were in and how brutal it was.
I think I'm surprised Colin actually wanted to deal with another person. He was like, this is not good. I don't want to talk to people like this. Dead up to their eyeballs. Like, what are we doing?
But I mean, it was very clear to me how intelligent you were, the drive you had. So it was like, this should be working. Why isn't this working, kind of thing, And sure enough, look where you are now.
Part of it was because we only had revenue for 4 months of every year. I needed Colin's help to tell me that wasn't the best business.
That's the kind of coaching you get at Nolan Consulting Group. Is you should want to do more revenue in months where you don't have it.
Smart. Wow. And the rest is history.
He's going to send you the bill actually after this. That's wise right. Words.
You helped me fire my first sales rep.
Yeah. Is this the one that? Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that one. And then there was one that you hired that was working out at the gym during the day when they should have been on estimates.
Well, they were working out at the gym. They were also working out at his like side piece, his house, because he was married and doing things he wasn't supposed to be while he was supposed to be doing estimates. But there's
a lot of stories there.
Oh yeah, just write a book.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Write a book.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Memory lane. Sales reps.
This is wonderful, guys. But let's talk about.
Hi, John.
I'm still here. Hey. So let's talk a little bit about maybe those first experiences as working together, working through sales reps, and obviously, I hope you've learned. I think you've learned a bunch, Michael, about that, and Colin, you probably have too, working through that process. So, what are some of the takeaways that you can look back on, Michael, on sales rep hiring? Like, is there anything you've learned?
I'm literally in the middle of trying to hire a sales rep right now, and it's never easy. I think the biggest thing I've learned, and I still don't do it, is we should always be looking for sales reps. Yeah, we are constantly. It's just like a constant challenge and a struggle, and we have good sales reps right now. And I would say I've learned a lot. I think I've gotten a lot better at not hiring for the wrong reasons. We were hiring people, they had some experience, they've seemed to have maybe their own sales system, so this is going to be great. They're going to come in and fix us. And through Colin's help and and just Nolan consulting some of the literature and things like that, I feel a lot more confident that we actually have our own system, and I'm confident it can work, and we just need to find the right person who's willing to come in and put in the effort.
What have you learned over the years, Colin?
Yeah, I find not just Michael. I mean, maybe this isn't Michael, but a lot of contractors will hire sales reps because they found the one that was the best of the bunch, but the bunch may not have been that good. So the scarcity mindset, like, well, I have to hire someone. It's about to be February or March, and I need someone to run leads. So I guess I'll try this person out. And even though your gut's telling you they're not a fit, you hire them anyways. And you maybe even invest some training into them, and then you give them leads that you've paid for, and then you're 2 months down the road and you realize they're definitely not a fit, and then it's May and you have no sales reps. So it's tough to overcome that. There's no good sales reps out there. You can't hire good sales reps. The other option is to hire bad ones. So just don't hire bad ones and keep looking. It's kind of what I keep, which is terrible advice for people to hear, right? That doesn't really help people out, but it helps them avoid the soft cost of the bad hire, training them, and then you're in the middle of the busy season with no reps.
But I also would add to that, though, is that once you've hired that bad sales rep, you stop looking, which goes back to what I just said. We need to stop looking, no matter what, or we need to stop looking, I guess.
I don't think that's right still.
Just keep looking for salespeople. Okay. That's the point. Anyways,
I'll always be looking.
There you go. Once you hire that, maybe mediocre rep, let's just use that, they're not a hell yes, But, to your point, like we've got these leads, somebody's got to go on them. As a business owner, I don't have time to do all the estimates. I'm going to hire this person, and I'm too busy now to keep looking for somebody else. Slash, why would I keep looking for somebody else? I just hired this person, and maybe we're missing out on the person who 2 weeks later would have been that rock star candidate.
So what's a better way? I mean, I totally hear that. Like that's been, I mean, my experience as well until a big change was having the ability to do that, right? Like having some bandwidth and HR to do that. But if keep looking is the answer, Colin,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do to run that process more effectively and just know that you found that person? Because I think a lot of people listening are going to say, well, yeah, I mean, like I'd like to find that right person. Maybe it's like, when do you know? What's some
Yeah.
telltale
What are you looking
signs?
for?
It's tough. It's definitely tough. I think the one thing that all great sales reps have, if you're hiring a sales rep that has sales experience, then the one like non-negotiable for me is there's got to be some what Brian calls trophies. They've got to be able to point to stuff and be like, I've been in sales for 5 years. Okay, you've been in sales for 5 years. Point to your trophies. What have you done? What accomplishments do you have? How have you done it? And there should be some war stories to go along with it of how they were able to change behavior to hit goals. They were down on a goal. They did things differently. They totally revamped some aspect of their process, or they started prospecting, and then that led to positive goals or being hit. But that only really works if somebody has trophies from sales. If you're hiring someone that's got no sales experience, which is what a lot of people end up doing these days, because good sales reps are employed, or for the most part, then there's got to be trophies at some point in the past of their life. Like this person, you don't want to hire someone that's never done anything really of note. Like, are you competitive? What have you achieved? What are you currently trying to achieve in your personal life? Do you have goals that you want to hit? Whether it's financial, is it physical? Like, what are you going after? Because those types of personality traits are going to bring themselves over into how they operate inside of a sales quota system, right? And then you can always rely on personality tests and profiles like that. I like to use those. The one we use often is the DISC. I don't like to hire based off of a DISC. If someone's got a bad DISC profile for a sales role, to me that's not a automatic no. I use it more of like a tiebreaker. If I got two candidates, I like them both. I can't really decide. They both have trophies. They've both done stuff that I really like. I'm going to go with the person who, based off of experience, so someone who has a high D is going to be more successful in sales. I'll go with them. But there's a lot of successful sales reps that have profiles of all different kinds. So I never like to throw people out just because of the DISC itself.
I would love to talk a little bit more about that. So maybe somebody's listening, they're not as familiar with DISC. They've heard of it, but they're not, so when you're talking like, what are the qualities that we're looking for that DISC can help to bring out?
Yeah.
What is that D, maybe some of the I, like talk a little bit specifically about that for everybody listening.
Yeah, so DISC stands for, obviously you spell DISC, D-I-S-C, and the D, I, and the S and the C are four behavioral kind of categories where everybody falls on some sort of sliding scale on all four of those. If you know DISC, you hear all the time, high D, high I, low D, low I. That's kind of the terminology people use. And for a sales rep, again, you can be any kind of DISC profile and be successful at sales, but typically it's the high D coupled with a high I profile that is successful at sales. So a high D is, when you're around a high D, you know it because there's no filter. They say what's on their mind. They're not afraid to ask tough questions. They tend to be competitive individuals. Everyone listening to this knows a high D in their life just based off of those traits right there. So someone who's a low D is more agreeable. They may not say something because they're worried it could cause a problem. I don't want to cause conflict. This could make them uncomfortable. I'm not going to say it. So I'm not going to ask the tough questions. I can tell they don't really want to talk about this part of the project. So I'm going to kind of skirt around it. So you want someone who's not afraid to ask tough questions, but they also need to have a bit of a emotional intelligence antenna to boot, because that's a really powerful. It's a powerful weapon to be able to ask tough questions, but then to just wield it in a really laissez-faire way and just like do it at the wrong time is going to turn people off. So you got to have some sort of emotional intelligence component, which is typically where the I comes in. The I is the interpersonal. It's the high I's are people who go to a networking function and they see everybody as potential friends. They love to meet new people. They're very chatty. They can sometimes be distracted, but they're really bubbly, happy personality. So you couple those two together, and it can be a fairly powerful combo for a sales role.
What's a common mistake where somebody, if you're not using disc, perhaps, but we people say things all the time like, oh wow, like you'd be good at sales, or this person seems like they'd be good at sales, especially in an interview setting. If we're
Yeah.
not using disc, how can
Typically,
that?
that's the eye.
Yeah.
They're seeing someone that's really chatty and likes to talk, and they're like, oh, you should be in sales. The problem with hiring that person for sales is high eyes. They value the relationship to such a degree. They want to be liked so much that they're at risk of not asking the tough questions because they're afraid it might jeopardize the relationship. So they forget why they're there. I'm here to try and see if we're fit to do this project together. I'm not here to be your friend. It'd be great if we were friends. So that whole like, hey, you should be a sales rep. You're really good at bond and rapport. That is one piece of a 14-piece puzzle, but it often gets the most attention. To your point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, how do you coach somebody? Perhaps you've got somebody on the team who is having some struggles with that directness. Maybe they're a medium D, certainly been there. How do you coach that? How would you provide some help to somebody to try to fix that?
So that's pretty common. There's this theory we subscribe to called the identity role theory. It's pretty common in psychology, where you have your identity. It's you. It's who you are. It's how you view yourself. No one can take that away from you. And then there's the roles that you play in life. Yeah, you're a father, husband, friend, boss. There's all these roles. We could list 25 roles right now if we really put the time into it. And how you show up in all of those roles is different. There's different behaviors required to be successful in all those roles, right? And some overlap, of course, but for the most part, how you are as a boss might be very different than how you are as a friend or a father. So it's about getting in the role. You look at any movie and you look at Robert Downey Jr. and it's like, well, is he really Iron Man? Does he think those things? No, he's reading off a script. So being in sales can be reading off of a script. Like you just got to know when to say the right things and then to just do it. So it doesn't have to be who you are, but in order to be successful and ask those tough questions and be a low D, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to know when the time is to ask those tough questions that you might not be comfortable asking, and then do it, and not have the results impact how you feel about yourself, impact who you think you are, and the next appointment that you go on. So it's literally about, we say, get in the role. If you had to write a movie script role for what this sales appointment would look like with the best sales rep in the world going on the sales appointment, what would they do and what would they say? And then do it. Now it takes more work, right? To be someone that you're not naturally and normally takes more work. So someone who's a low D can mimic a high D. It just takes thought, and it's not them being themselves. And natural is just a high D would say this now, right? So you just got to work on it. This is where the word tracks really help out, to have them armed with the right tool set of like, when the customer says this, I know this word track usually works well. Whereas a high D naturally might not rely on word tracks as much. They might just play off the cuff,
So what are some indicators here that someone's making those changes, or I guess at a bigger level, like that they're able to have success? Like the coaching's an element of it, but when do you start seeing that? Say you're Michael and he's hired someone who's a low D. When do we start to see if they can actually do this?
Well, there's a couple of different ways to evaluate the success of a sales rep. The first is overall cultural fit. Or does the rest of the team like them? Do they not fit in with the overall, culture of the company? There's how well do they work as a sales team all together? Then there's, are they hitting their sales quota? Like, are they hitting their goals? And then if you peel all that back, and let's say they're cultural fit, they're good with the team, but they're just not hitting their goals, then you do what I say is you lift the hood of the car, and then you get into all the behaviors that makes a successful sales rep. And you got to find a way to assess them. You got to have a way of assessing your team. So ideally, you have a sales system at your company. If you don't have one, they're not that hard to, they're everywhere online. Customize it for yourselves. Michael has one that works for him. Sean, you guys have one as well. And then you got to chart them. You need to assess. So there's a couple foundations of sales coaching, which comes from, I forget what book that comes from. We'll get back to you guys on that. But you need to assess, plan, coach, measure. So the assess piece is the first part of that. Here's where I need you to be on this component of the sales process. Here's where you are. Do we agree on that assessment? So you're basically diagnosing their development level towards that, which get into situational leadership too a little bit. But assuming you guys agree on where somebody is on their development level, then you can get into, all right, now let's come up with a plan. How are we going to improve this? What's a good KPI? How do we objectively measure this? So let's say that, bond and rapport is a big one, right? Every sales rep gets into sales because they love the bond and rapport aspect. It's probably the one aspect of the sales process that if you ask sales reps how good are you at this, they're all going to be like, I'm great at it. Like no sales rep's like terrible at bond and rapport. They all think that they're great at it.
Yeah.
So if you lift the hood on it, it's like, well, okay, what makes you good at it? What are you doing? There are like 3 or 4 like pretty common bond and rapport tactics to take that if you want to ride along with the sales rep that you can measure and monitor and find, and then go, you didn't do this, or you did this and that wasn't okay. So for me, it's about assessing, it's about figuring out where they're weak, and then coming up with actual like objective measures for how are we going to get you better at this. In the bond and rapport aspect, you didn't do any of the 4 or 5 tools that we typically teach. And I'm all about putting in pretty heavy, like in bowling, right? You put down the guardrails. It ensures the ball gets at least hit some of the pins, right?
I need that. Yes.
And developing, and I think I need it too. And developing people, great leaders are constant with their feedback. They don't let a lot of time go by without giving feedback, both positive and negative feedback. So that feedback loop is constantly allowing the guardrails or whatever they are to come closer and closer to where they're going to be hitting a strike more often, right? So that's what feedback is. It's constantly pointing them in the right direction that they need to go in. I have a 1-year-old now that's just starting to try and walk, and he's using the walker, and he's walking with it, and he veers off to the left, and you got to bring it back to the center, and he veers off to the right, you got to bring it back to the center, and if you don't watch him for a minute, he's way off here. So it's kind of the same thing with a sales rep. But you got to constantly be doing ride-alongs. The feedback loop's got to be constant, bringing them back to what is the right path.
It is funny how sales reps are a lot like 1-year-olds. I agree with that.
Mike, we have a lot of sales reps that listen to the podcast too. Come on.
Just kidding.
I think
just kidding. I love our sales reps.
This is it's actually really helpful. Like I'm trying to think of this from a sales rep perspective though too. And if you are a sales rep listening, I think it's really helpful to get the background of what is needed for the business and like what is helpful to be thinking about yourself and trying to work on yourself. Because ultimately that's really how a sales rep gets better, is just working on your role and working on the key parts of your role. And I think we're going to talk a bit about, assessments and how we can start to identify issues in the role. But ultimately, every good sales rep is constantly looking at their process and their systems and being like, am I doing the best I can? And trying to educate themselves on what it looks like to do better, because ultimately they do better by, if they do better, they do better, right? Like that's hopefully you have a good a comp system that allows them to be rewarded for that effort. And I think a lot of times it can feel like an us versus them mentality, but really it's us together. Let's be better together. And I think that's important to hear in this conversation, that you can take a lot away from this by just thinking about areas where you need to improve. So
yeah, I mean, to what you just said, John, if a sales rep is asking those questions and is thinking that way, but they're not hitting their goals, like that to me is like, all right, well, we're gonna give you some more time, because not many sales reps think that way.
No,
and are doing that kind of work. And I think on the podcast you guys had with Connor from Sound Painting Solutions, he mentioned in his first year how terrible his numbers were, but his boss kept him around. He was like, I'm seeing the work you're putting in. And if you're seeing that, then that's like, you got to give those kinds of people time, because people who put in that kind of work and think about their job and the company that holistically are not easy to come by.
Yeah, it's very rare, which is, I mean, if anything can be taken away from this, it's that thinking about how to do your role better, all of our roles, is beneficial to yourself first, and then hopefully, that's going to be rewarded. So
I think that's the number one quality I look for in a sales professional, is that just like that inner competition. Like, how am I going to be better tomorrow than I am today? 1% better every day kind of idea. I think when as a sales rep especially, obviously I'd love to have that in everybody, but a sales rep especially, I mean, as much as I'm teasing on sales reps, I would say they're probably the most important piece in our businesses. I can absolutely track, like going back to when we started working with Colin until today, like there's so many things that we're better at, but I would say the number one thing where it all starts is just being better at sales, because we can charge at a higher rate, which can then start to solve for a lot of problems. It's amazing that when you actually charge the right price, you can make money in this industry and, pay people and have benefits. And then when that happens, you can attract even better people. And it becomes this like really positive flywheel that all starts with being able to sell better and, connect with the right customers and not the wrong ones, and all of the pieces and parts that a great sales rep is going to bring to the table.
Yeah, when you know that work's going to be coming in, it allows you to plan and be methodical in the other areas. Whereas if work's scarce, then you're kind of going around with your hair on fire trying to figure it out, and you're not putting your time into operations, maybe, right?
100%. Yeah, you're in fight or flight mode all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let's talk a bit about KPIs. So I think I've heard it's kind of skirting around that, and I think the the whole idea here of this conversation is, how do you know if you're doing well and if you have potential? I think, and KPIs for those listening, just those indicators that it is working. And I guess to
Or
both
isn't.
of you guys, or isn't, you know, I know Michael, like you were excited to talk about some of your previous experiences with salespeople and kind of where you might have went wrong. And Colin was a part of some of those with you. And so maybe we can kind of at the midway point of the podcast, just share some battle stories and
Are we
learnings.
using names or calling people out?
Let's,
we've had a lot of, it's, I can say, we've talked about it before, like when we first started using PaintScout in 2020, our sales win percentage was right around 32% as a company. We were selling about a third of the quotes that we did. I think the year before we were probably at 35%. So I think a little bit of that 2020 issue was COVID, and we had a million quotes because everybody was thinking about doing something at their house. We also had really bad sales reps in 2020, talking about hiring somebody that had a lot of sales experience, couldn't use technology. So that made trying to do virtual quotes during COVID really, really fun. But yeah, sales win percentage would be one of the first KPI things that, instantly come to mind. Mm-hmm. What are some of the key numbers that, Colin, you look at, right? This is one of your clients calls, hey, I've got this sales issue, or I want to hire my first sales rep. How should I measure them? What are we looking at?
Yeah. So, sales win rate, close rate, that's kind of the golden goose there, right? Of what everyone kind of looks for. The other obvious one would be just sheer volume. Are they hitting their overall goals? That means if they're not hitting their goals, like I think Kevin talked about this when he was on your podcast, like I'm paying my sales reps to hit their goals. If they don't hit their goals, we don't have work and the operations team can't do it. So we have to hit our goals. You have to hit your sales goal. And then at the hourly rate, a lot of people could close a lot of jobs and do a lot of volume if they're not selling at a high enough rate, right? If they're constantly discounting and undercutting. So, those tend to be the traditional ones. If you lift the hood even further and go back into their sales pipeline, are there a lot of open bids? Are there a lot of open estimates and not a lot of closures? Are they tracking their estimates and are there notes in their estimates where there's follow-up that's happening and you can see that there's work being done? Or it's just kind of the X-Files, what we call it, where I got 125 open bids. There's $3.1 million of work in those bids. There's hope in there somewhere. If I get 1% of those, I'm in good shape, right? And that's just a terrible strategy. So the pipeline is a great kind of ulterior place to go and see what's really happening in their day to day.
So how soon are you looking at this stuff? Someone's 90 days in. Do we have enough data to make assessments at that point?
You have data points. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have a conclusive story. Some people take time. Other people more plug and play. I think it depends upon the experience you're hiring them with. It also depends upon your industry, right? If you're an average job size of $4,000 and you're all res repaint and there's a lot of open bids and not a lot of closes, there's something not happening there. But if it's commercial longer term, then you got to give it more time. But it's difficult for me to say in 90 days, here's what should be happening, because it all depends on your infrastructure of your sales team, the training that's available, the help that they're getting, plus the kind of lead flow they're getting, the branding and quality of leads that they're getting, and then obviously what we talked about earlier is just like, are they putting in the work? Can you see it every day? And that to me is more indicative of like, do I want you on my team? Are you putting in the work? If I've given you 90 days to hit these benchmarks of like learning our system, did it take you 90 days to learn all those things, or were you really getting after it and learning it in 60? So just for us here at Nolan Consulting Group, we have an onboarding training plan for new coaches we hire that lasts about 90 days. And I could tell a lot about a new coach if they're hitting like the 90-day items by day 35 or day 60, because it's all self-paced. And like how voracious are they, and are they eating it up? And then you got to, of course, audit and make sure that it's being absorbed. But a lot of this is self-paced. Like there's a lot of good books on sales, a lot of good podcasts on sales, and it's really up to them at what pace they take it all in. This is a great podcast on sales. This is the podcast on sales.
I don't think there are any. There's only one podcast.
I think this is the first one.
This is the original podcast, obviously.
It's the only one I listen to. It's true.
I think, what I hear you saying is kind of like the difference between the leading and lagging indicators. After 90 days, you might not have enough of those lagging indicators. But if we're looking at the right behaviors, are they doing their follow-ups? Are they setting next step agreements? Are they showing up to their appointments on time? All like putting in the work, learning, reading the books, doing the things. We might not yet see like wins happening at the pace that we would like. But we can probably project, and you use Connor as a great example, that there's great things coming for this person. We need to, provide some encouragement and, some coaching and, some guardrails and things like that. But if we're only looking at those like lagging indicators, well, you didn't sell enough, sorry, you're out. You can make some really bad decisions. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was having a conversation about this exact thing with a client on Wednesday, where they've not seen any kind of result yet that they want to see from a number standpoint. But like, he's asking what networking events he can go to. He's asking their business development person if he can tag along. He's putting in the work, and they're talking about him like he could be sales management one day, even though he's got no real data yet. But that just goes to show that type of early attitude and effort is like what you should be looking for.
I think there's the hard evidence, which is interesting, because at this point now I've seen so much data that you can show me a profile of a sales rep just purely on data, and I can tell you what they're doing wrong. It's like the matrix. Like instead of seeing zeros and ones, I just see like, oh, this person doesn't follow up. Oh, this person isn't asking for the job. It's like it's really become evident for me. But I think that the first 90 days is the hardest to assess, because like you just don't have, there's so much to learn. Like as much as we think that, someone who's painted before should know how to sell a paint job, it's like you have to learn your sales system. And if you haven't sold painting before and you have a sales system, you got to learn painting. There's a lot of variables there. So I think, I totally agree that it's probably more of the soft skills we're looking for. It's that like learner mentality, being willing to put in the effort. But I'd say the one stat that really has been effective for us to monitor has been the closure rate. And that's the ability to take a no and to move it to a point where you can get a yes or a no. And a lot of times, if you can't get there in 90 days where you show you can close off work, we actually don't have enough data to work with at all, because you can't do the most critical part, which is try to get the job. And so we're looking, I think, and I want to get you guys' opinion on this, but have you experienced that? One, and two, do you agree? Like, is that important?
Are you getting that from their pipeline not being like, not growing at a huge rate because they're closing jobs out? Or are you getting that from like their ride-alongs, John, and like you're seeing them tell customers, I'm okay with no, and they actually get closure?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, but mostly it has to do with their pipeline. Okay. So like, are you like, no's are great in the first 90 days. Like if you get 40 estimates and you get all no's, okay, we have something to work with. I mean, I think if you're get all no's on 40 estimates, that's probably a problem in itself. But the point here is that like, that's really the key differentiator between someone who can sell, I feel like, who has that D we've talked about earlier, or can at least emulate it,
Mhm.
is that they're not just making friends, they're actually trying to push towards a decision point, which a lot of people are uncomfortable with.
But I would just jump in real quick, but I think like the difference there, if somebody's listening, is like, I think the idea of like closure. We've talked about it. It's been a long time on this podcast that closure doesn't necessarily mean winning the job. It just means it not being open. It means actually getting an answer from the customer. The most common thing I think that like if somebody doesn't book with your company, they just don't give you an answer. Like I think that is the most prevalent thing in our industry or in home improvement. It's big ticket sales. I'll get back to you. You never hear from them again. You chase them, chase them, chase them. I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months, whatever your process is. But eventually you just give up and maybe you follow up once or twice and you give up. That's what John's talking about is not that. It's getting an answer from a customer where you go after it enough, you set the conditions enough. Like Colin mentioned, we make customers feel okay with, hey, just give me an answer. I'm not going to hassle you about it. I'm okay with a no. If at any point we're not going to be a good fit, just let me know. Type of a word track. That's a sign of a really strong, successful sales rep. That's what you're talking about, John.
Correct. Yeah.
It means they have the right IR going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, getting a yes or a no from this customer does not have any impact on my self-worth or my value or the kind of day I'm going to have. Like I can't let this yes or no impact my happiness level at all. My happiness is I control it, right?
Mhm.
So that it takes like if someone's got a really great IR, that might be one of the major like components of a great sales rep is to be able to get through. Because if a customer really believes that you're okay with no, then they're going to tell you. Like, but they have to believe it. You can't just say that word track and have it sound salesy. You have to like make them believe it. And if you can do that, then I have a hard time thinking you won't be successful in sales.
One of the things I love to talk about just on this topic real quick with our sales team, and I think even though I talk about it quite often, I think it almost surprises them every time they hear it. I say one of the worst things that can happen as a sales rep is when you get really excited when you sell a big job. And the reason for that, as Colin, I see you shaking your head, and maybe you're the one who told me this, but it's that the opposite side of that coin is you get down when you lose a quote sale. When somebody tells you no, maybe it's a big job when you thought you might get, great house, great whatever, and they say no, you're going to get a little bit down, whatever that is. Like your emotional state is going to change in the negative, similar to how it would change in the positive when you win that sale.
Mm-hmm.
And then how that manifests itself is you don't go for closure because having that negative experience in your emotional state is something that we all want to avoid. Nobody likes to feel like down, damn it, that sucks, boo. And subconsciously, then we, as a salesperson, we don't go for closure. We go for making friends and giving out bids and hoping that some of them say yes.
Hopium. Yeah.
That makes me feel good. And if I never hear no, then I'm all good. I don't ever have those negative experiences and they just fizzle away. And that's a mediocre at best sales performance is what's going to come from that.
It's the same thing that leads to people not prospecting and not doing business development. It's because I don't get to feel good by prospecting, right? I'm not going to get a sale here. I get turned down a lot. So if you're really good at the IR piece, you probably would also be good at that business development piece. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Talk more about that. That's something that I think, in our industry, we just struggle with so much is prospecting and, sales reps kind of owning their results in that way.
Yeah. I mean, sales reps, like particularly the short sales cycle sales reps, they, as much as we say, like, don't get too high or too low, they do to some degree. And it can be really difficult to get them to like spend a full day. Like you're not going to get any type of dopamine hit today. Like you're just going to go out, you're going to meet some people, you're going to drop off coffee, and that's a good day. And they're like, what do you mean that's a good day? I'm not going to make any sales. So they end up not wanting to do it. So I like companies that tend to gamify the business development side and to try and kind of make it an easier crossover to where winning is not making a sale. Winning is a contact. It's like I spoke with 5 people today that were all in the kind of HOA niche that I was going for. like that's a win. And then the sales team needs to celebrate that win at the sales meeting. There's got to like, you kind of force that dopamine hit. So by prioritizing the behaviors, that's gonna end up leading to results potentially way down the road. But if you can have a sales team that celebrates those types of wins, the prospecting is going to be way more fun, and people are going to want to do it more.
Makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know, John, you guys do well with that. I mean, we've had Dave on, and I think the gamification that you guys have done is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it. It just makes it feel so much more real if you can do it in the right way, and it's a huge part of this industry, and I think most home improvement industries is figuring out how to be relevant and to get to know people even when they don't need your services. And
people, it's in order for people to buy from you, they first need to know you and like you. So I need to know that you exist. If I'm going to buy from you, I need to know you exist, and then I probably need to like you, and my interaction with you's been positive. And those are the first two steps of the customer's cycle there, and like that's the whole goal of this business development piece. And like I think your brother, he takes no company fed leads, and he was like, I don't want any company fed leads like that. I've never heard a sales rep say that and then not be successful. So there's been a couple that have been able to do that, but like that mindset of like, if you had the confidence to say that, like you're almost going to follow through on it. It's all mindset. The whole prospecting thing, you know.
Well, let's chat here a little bit, Colin, about the Nolan Consulting Sales Assessment. So I know that's work that is such valuable work, and I'd really like our listeners to be aware of that this kind of stuff exists. So maybe give us the overview of it, and then we'll talk a little bit about how.
Yeah, we've been doing sales boot camps for I think as long as we've existed, since 2003 or so, and the sales rep self-evaluation wheel has been a part of that. And actually got this from we're talking about Andrew Leslie. I was talking to him this week, and he said sales reps are visual people, so that wheel thing is really powerful. And I agree. So you're able to go through these 14 questions that look to attack the different pieces of the sales process, but not just process, different things that would benefit a sales rep. And you ask them to grade themselves on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being lowest, not performing. I don't do this ever. And then 10 being, I do this every time, perfect, no room for improvement. And Jim Falk, you guys have had on from Nolan Painting, he's a pretty good sales rep, some people would say. And he never gives himself a 10 in any of these, because to say you're a 10, it means that you've reached perfection. And that's just the kind of mindset where like you can't think you've ever reached perfection, because then you rest on your laurels and then you get lazy. So 9 is really the highest that we like to see people give themselves on these. But you rank it from 0 to 9, and then that kind of gives you a really good insight into the different areas where that sales rep needs to improve, because you're going to probably, being their sales manager or their boss, you're going to want to do the same thing for them. And then you can compare the two wheels and go, you gave yourself a 9 or a 10 on bond and rapport. I gave you a 2. There's a big delta there, right?
I don't even like you. I'm glad we
never bonded ever. So I don't know what you're talking about. So there's conversation there. It's like, tell me what you think good bond and rapport means, because that's not what I'm seeing. So it will lend itself to better sales coaching discussions. And then you can start talking about, all right, what's the action plan here? Do we agree upon what has to start happening? Right? Like you say you're great at bond and rapport. I don't think you do a lot of active listening or finding common ground. You kind of just talk a lot and you see a fish on the wall and you talk about the fish. That's not bond and rapport to me.
Nice
right?
fish.
Yeah.
Nice dog. Anyways,
yeah, exactly.
I got something to sell you.
I have a dog too. That's done. Bond and rapport. Check. So, come up with some actionable areas, kind of like we were talking about earlier, some objective things that you can start to see them doing that are going to help bring that from a 2 to a 5 or a 6, and just show improvement to some degree. So there's 14 different little spokes here. I'm not sure, John, if you want me to go through all 14 of them or to pick out a couple, but
yeah, maybe pick out a couple just so people know. I think ultimately the idea here is that I think it's so helpful to know that this stuff exists and that you can get help. So yeah, do a couple that you think are interesting.
So I always gravitate towards finding pain. It's definitely a phrase that a lot of sales reps are familiar with, and a lot of sales reps will grade themselves high on bond and rapport, but also on finding pain. But I don't think people actually do a good job of this. I think I think sales reps think they find pain, but they don't really find pain. They find potential flags that they're going to care about, and then they move on. Whereas when you really find pain, you get to what they really care about, like what's going to make this person pay more money for my product or for the experience that we're going to give and make us a fit for each other. In order to really get there, you got to do the work, and it's not quick. It can be a roundabout way, but when people find pain, they might just move on. But I like to view finding pain as like getting into a hot tub with the customer. It's like, all right, we're getting in, now we're getting out. It's like, no. We just got here. Let's sit for a little bit. Let's chat. So how long has this problem been going on? What have you tried? Oh, it's brutal. That really didn't work. And then what did they say? Like, you find it and hang out for a bit. Like you did all the work to get there. You got into the hot tub, enjoy it. Like poke around, figure out, like experience it. And then once they fully experience that pain, and you know that they remember that experience, and it's fully present as if they're back in that moment, then you can move on. People they'll find pain if they find it at all, and then they quickly move on. They're like, great, I got it, next. So that's one of the ones that I love on here that people don't do. They might do it, but they don't do it very well.
Colin, can I put you on the spot? Can we do a little role play? I'll let you be the sales rep. I'll be the customer, and give us like somebody that is like a 7, 8, 9 in that finding pain. What might that sound like at a residential painting quote?
I'm the sales rep.
You're the sales rep.
Okay,
I'm the homeowner.
So they're very good at finding pain and really sitting in it.
Yep.
So Michael, you were talking to me about how when you had the last contractor here, they would do work till like well after typical closing hours. They'd be doing work outside till like 8 p.m. and their neighbors were complaining. That's a pretty brutal experience. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it was last summer. We had, this landscaping, we got the patio done, you can see it out there. And yeah, I mean, it took forever. So I've got some young kids, and, for us, like 7:30, 8 o'clock is bedtime. And it was, it's kind of like time to go, get out, we'll see you tomorrow. I got to get the kids to bed here. It's a little loud.
I mean, once it hits 7:30, it's bath time and everything needs to stop. Did you talk to them at all? Did you go and like ask them to stop?
Yeah, I mean, I did. The first day I didn't. I just was like, all right, this is just going to be a 1-day thing, no big deal. I want to be nice here. But that second day, I was, my wife was like, hey, what are we doing? You got to go talk to these guys. And so I went out there, and the guy honestly was kind of rude about it, and I didn't want to get in a fight. I mean, what am I? He's working on the yard, and
So
I don't know.
You asked him to like end it early, and he just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of projects to do, he said, and he's got to get this done while it's daylight out. And I mean, I get it. I understand. There's only so much time.
You get it, but I mean, you're the customer.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't even imagine how that made you feel.
I was a little frustrated for sure. I mean, it wasn't. I wasn't happy about it, but yeah,
frustrated for sure. And then I mean, if they just kept doing it, it's kind of adding insult to injury each day that they just don't leave.
Oh yeah, 7:30. For sure. Yeah, I mean, eventually we had neighbors that were kind of texting over like, "Hey, could we keep it down over there?" And it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest.
That's my nightmare, Michael. That is literally my nightmare. I cannot. That's unbelievable. I'm really sorry that happened to you.
Well, yeah,
that's a horrible experience.
Yeah, I mean, glad it's over. Let's put it that way. I don't want to do that again for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to write down in our notes, listen to the homeowner and make sure that we're done before 7:30. Would that be helpful, Michael?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. I mean, honestly, I don't think I'm asking too much. It's I
don't think so at all.
Okay.
So we got there, we found the pain, we sat in it for a bit, and then, made a little joke to kind of get out of it. But the key of finding it is not for in the moment to try and sell them. I'm not trying to be like, great, well, if we can do that, if we're gone by 5, can I earn your business?
Right.
The goal is all right, now I know something that's going to make him potentially pay more because the experience matters. He had a bad experience. This wouldn't have to happen again. I can use that, right? And we're not going to make that. I mean, we would never have that happen whether I knew about this or not. So when the objection comes on price, if it comes, that's when you use the pain and you go back to it. And it's not slimy, it's authentic. It's
Right.
Michael, we talked a lot about your past experiences where you've spoken to these contractors and you made your preferences known and they wouldn't listen to you. And it was like, it felt disrespectful. I'm not saying that these other contractors are going to do that, but did you have that conversation with them the way that we did? And are you confident that they're going to take your experience and have how you guys experience people in and around your home to the same degree of seriousness that we are? And you just make them think a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that emotion you bring back up again is enough to make them part with whatever the gap is in price.
I love it. So let's do another quick role play. What might that sound like with somebody like a 3 or a 4? So like a 0 might not even, right?
Yeah.
We're not even bringing it up. We're not even asking about the last contractors or whatever, but maybe there's somebody out there that's a 3 or 4, like they've heard of this. Some of the other guests on the podcast have talked about pain perhaps, and they kind of do it, but not really, or they get into the hot tub and they get out, to use your analogy. Yeah. Give us an example. Let's do another quick role play, another minute or two. What might that sound like?
So Michael, have you guys worked with other contractors in the past?
Yeah, we had the patio put in last year. Yeah, big project.
Okay. Good experience, bad experience?
It was okay. I mean, it took, the guys took a little longer than I thought, but I thought overall I was really happy with it in the end.
Okay, so it sounds like timeline's pretty important to you in getting things done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want you guys here forever. So, how long do you guys think this project might take?
Probably 4 or so days.
Okay. Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So we'll make sure, timeline's important to you, making sure that we're going to get this done in a speedy manner. I'll make sure that we have that on the estimate and it's taken care of.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds fair.
Great. I found his pain. His pain was the timeline, and I made sure that I noted in the estimate. So when you were like, yeah, it was okay. That's a note for every sales rep that's out there. Whenever a customer is telling you about an experience and the tone and the inflection of the voice goes up or down, like pause, hold the phones. I found something there.
Yep. And
they don't want to disclose. I got to peel that back. Michael, I can't help it, but I noticed that when you said it went okay, you went, it was okay. That in my experience, there's always something there. More. Is there something there? And you can kind of get into it. So someone that is not looking for real pain is just going to hear, like, check the box. I found what might make them buy, and they're going to move on from it and not even get to the pain.
Love it. It's awesome.
Fantastic. Maybe let's go through one more, Colin, one more on the spoke, and then we'll wrap
one
it up.
more. I'll go with, I already hit bond and rapport already, finding pain, because those are the two that sales reps always think they do well. And they're really important, obviously. I'll say, and I think Connor did really good about talking money when he was on your pod. So I'll say the decision process. Mm-hmm. The decision process can be kind of like a third rail topic, particularly if you're selling to homeowners. And it's like I don't want to disrespect the person I'm talking to here by saying, are you going to involve your wife? Are you going to involve your husband? Mm-hmm. And they may not fully get into like what the decision process is. So are you afraid to ask the tough questions about how is this decision going to be made? When you've had decisions like this in the past with projects on your home, can you kind of run me through what that process looks like from when you bring people in to when you make your choice? What does that look like, and have them bring you through? You could also say things like, would you like me to include anybody else in my emails? Is there anyone else that I should be including when I send stuff over? That's kind of a around the back way of being like, is your spouse going to be involved in this as well? Should I be including them? And then they go, yeah, include my spouse. Oh, okay, great. So you're married. Like, are they going to have a lot of pressure? So you can start, once they open the door to it, you can start getting into a little bit more. But it's really a WIMP junction point to not figure out more about the decision process, because it's one of the things that customers can keep close to the vest, because that feels like I'm giving up a lot of information if I tell you about my decision process and how I'm going to make this choice. So asking about it is the first step on it, and then doing it the right way where the homeowner doesn't feel, whoever you're talking to, right? If it's commercial sale, it's like, I know I'm talking to you, but your boss is making this call, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's not, of course, what you want to do. So you got to find ways of getting to who the decision maker is without insulting and disrespecting the person you're speaking in front of. That can be tough. So because it's tough, people might not do it. Mm-hmm. So that's another one I'd highlight.
Yeah, especially from we've had this discussion before on just about having decision makers present, mm-hmm. and whether you should do it or not. And And I think there's that mentality sometimes people have is like, I want to make sure that both any decision makers are going to be present for the meeting. It's like, okay.
You can turn people off real quick.
Really quick. Yeah. Yeah. Just want to make sure.
Hey, female, is your husband going to be home? Like,
yeah,
oh, God.
exactly. A lot.
You lost.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta view that individual that's right in front of you as like, this is my champion, right?
Mhm.
Like even if they're not the main, I say this all the time, like, well, I don't really get to, I talk to the facilities manager, but the board makes all the calls. So it's not worth it. Well, you have the greatest insight into the board sitting right in front of you.
Mm.
Like, how can you solve their problems and make them fight for you to that board?
Mm.
Like, or if they can't fight in front of the board, like, can you learn more about the board from them? Like, you got to, like, people are really quick to overlook who's in front of them to get to their real decision maker, and they're losing an opportunity to create a relationship that's going to benefit them. So that's another area that I think a lot of people could work on.
It might even be, going back to that pain conversation, but that might be an opportunity to talk about like the last time a project was done. Perhaps you're not talking to the main decision maker or that board example. How did that go? Like what was that like? And maybe there was some pain involved. Maybe the board went with somebody that the facility manager didn't recommend, and we can, hang out in that pain and that part of that conversation as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's pain all over the place. It's like you got to bring your metal detector at the beach, and you're just combing the beach, and you hear some beeps, and you dig up, and it's not real pain, it's fake pain. I'm going to keep going. And once you find pain, get in the hot tub and hang there a while. Wait till you're nice and pruny, and then you can get out. Not an actual hot tub, just to be clear.
Yeah, we do
proverbial hot
not.
tub.
If you're in the hot tub with your customer, you haven't got
There's
the
a
job
lot
yet.
I hope you make that sale. That's all I'll say.
Yeah,
Somebody's gonna listen to this
because
episode.
if the other decision maker comes home,
hop in, honey. This is Colin.
We're just talking about all my pain.
gonna be quite the
Some
scene.
pain in my neck right over here.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
boy.
So, well,
Episode's
Colin.
gonna be get an explicit rating on it here soon.
Perfect.
yeah, apparently it gets more viewers.
Oh,
but
man.
Colin, we appreciate having you on, man. It's great.
Yeah,
to get
this has
these
been a
insights.
blast.
And
It's been fun. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. It's fun. I think for those of you who are the first time learning about Nolan Consulting, the sales assessment is available. You guys can do that for just anyone. Or how does that work?
Yeah, we'd be happy to make this available to anyone looking for it. And then it's 14 spokes for us, but you might customize it for your company and kind of get an idea about what we want to be judging and coaching our sales reps on. So yeah, absolutely available.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Cool.
Colin, so John and I are obviously clients. I've been working with you guys since 2017. Like we talked about, John, you've been a client of Nolan before I was. How long does that go back?
2013 probably, I think.
Wow. Okay. 12 years.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think you joined right when I joined. That's a long time ago, John.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I know. Feels like forever.
So talk about just as we wrap up, like who is Nolan Consulting for, and maybe who is Nolan Consulting not for somebody that might be listening to the podcast.
Not for.
They've heard it before, they've considered it. Who might be a great fit? Who might be maybe not a great fit?
Yeah. So, a big component of what we do is we help business owners, crystallize their vision, implement systems, know their numbers, get out of the hourglass. There's a lot of great coaching companies out there now. I think something that we do really well is the care that we have, the depth of the relationships that we generate with our clients. Like I would get on calls with Michael back in 2018 and get anxiety about the numbers I was going to see because I cared about Michael.
They were bad.
So it's for now. I look forward to getting the numbers emailed to me because I know they're going to be killer.
They're better.
So it's really for anyone that's looking to turn a lifestyle business where your business is you, and turn it into a value business, whether you want to sell it where it's worth more or just kind of run it in the side. But through developing people, that's a big part of what we help with is developing people, leadership training, field leadership training, sales training, all that stuff. Because really it's people at the end of the day, they're going to get you to where you want to go. If you can help people get what they want, they're going to help you get what you want. So figuring out what they want is huge. But I'm not doing a good job answering your question at all.
So it's not. I mean, it's not just the painting industry. Obviously,
No,
there's
it's any. Yeah, typically it's I'd say it's trades businesses between 500,000 and 20 something million is our niche, and then we obviously work with people beyond that, but people don't come to us at that range. Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, so obviously, some clients have come and gone over the years or whatever. Maybe what is a characteristic of a company that's joined that wasn't as successful? Maybe it was short-lived. Perhaps they didn't have the infrastructure to put some of the stuff in place. Perhaps they didn't have the right mindset. Anything like that might come to mind.
Yeah, I'd say the type of people we don't work super well with are the people that are looking for quick fixes. And I need something to solve this problem. Growth is not a straight line, as you can attest to, Michael.
100%.
There's going to be trials and tribulations and challenges and bad days and good days. And the people who want to build their businesses the right way, not through, quick systems that, plug and play, I'm good, I'll see you guys later. But when they want to develop a respected advisor, they want to build it the right way. Those are the people who work out really well.
Love it.
Would you guys agree? I mean, you guys are around a lot of people in Summit. That's a pretty, yeah.
I mean, I think that growth mindset, we talked about like with the sales reps of somebody who's like trying to improve, that 1% better every day type of mentality. I think that's somebody, to your point, like it isn't a quick fix. We're going to compound the wins. I think somebody who's open to who has that humility that I don't know everything, but
humble, hungry, and smart, right?
Yeah. But also willing to share, right? I mean, it's a group you just mentioned. Like there's the individual coaching, but there's also that group component. That's how Jon and I, became such good friends over the years here. And a lot of it is just like sharing with each other best practices and horror stories.
I was going to say that we typically will put people into two groups. You're either a sharer or you're a taker. That might be a little inside baseball, but takers don't. I mean, I don't mind saying that because takers don't last long. If you're a taker, you typically you'll get our systems, we'll work with you, and then you might move on your way, and that's fine. That's totally fine. Like you're allowed to be a taker, just for the record. You're paying us, we're giving you. It's a good exchange. The people who really work out and benefit in the long term is they want to give to the group, they want to help the group out, and by doing that, you obviously are going to get in return as well. That's the mentality.
Cool. Yep. Love it, guys. Well, let's wrap it up there. Colin, thank you once again for all of you
guys
who are listening, who enjoy the content. Give it a like, give it a subscribe. We're happy to keep doing this and bring on awesome guests like Colin. And if you're looking for more information, nolanconsultinggroup.com. Is that where they're going?
NolanCG.com.
NolanCG.com. So perfect.
Colin, I'll call you next week when something's completely broken and I need your help.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
I'm on speed dial.
Excellent. All right, guys. Have a great day. Talk to you later.
This podcast is proudly powered by PaintScout, your partner in painting success.